Hello everyone, this is the last and final, and this is it, part to my How to Mod Your PS1 console. This one is really just piecing everything together, doing the final things, and then assembling everything, as well as installing the LED lights we made in part, I think it was the last part. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start off by something pretty simple. What we've got here is just the shell piece without the lid with the window that we cut in part 1. And we've got my Dremel with the cutter bit. And just real quick, we're just going to cut a little hole right here. This hole is so that once we install the lid, we can feed the wire for the LEDs down through this hole, which will then go over here and attach to the power board underneath here. So all I'm really going to do is just drill a little hole. I make it about 1/4 inch around, especially if you're using more than 3 LEDs like I am, which I hope most of you are. So anyways, let me just drill this hole real quick. Pretty simple. Like I said, it's just so we're going to feed the wire down through there. Nothing really to it. And that's that. So let me cut. Well, let me see if I can just go ahead and cut to the next. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it aside. Alright. Now, we've got the lid from earlier with our window. And we're going to be flipping this over. Some of this dust out of the way. And what we're going to be doing now is we're going to install the LED lights. And these are the ones from the last part and everything that were pretty much done. Now you do want to do it in this order because it'd be pointless to do it in the opposite order. You're just going to have to take my word on that. And I can't even seem to find the LED lights. Here they are. Alright. So here they are. There's only 3 of them. But we talked about that. I'm just doing that for time. It's going to be the same concept no matter how many you have. You're just going to have them spaced a lot closer together. All we're really going to do here is this is the back of the tray, so we're going to be installing all the lights and feeding them around and making sure that all the wires end up right around this point, which is right around that hole we just drilled. Now what we'll be doing is we'll be using a hot glue gun, my very old hot glue gun, and we're just going to be doing this one at a time. So we'll go ahead and get started on this. Now if you see here, they're different lengths. So the longest one, for obvious reasons, should go out towards the front, just to make sure. It really doesn't matter because you should have allowed for enough if you followed that to the other part of the tutorial. But just good practice, I guess you could say. And you can even use some of this extra tape that maybe wasn't covered. You know, it's just going to depend on how yours ended up. But you still want to use the glue because that tape is not going to be enough to hold these floppy wires in here. And it's also good to have put your first dot right near the LED light. That way they don't accidentally short for whatever reason. Because if the 2 contacts touch together, then it'll short out and it could mess everything up. So I'm going to put my first little dot right in here. And since the tape is kind of holding it, I'll just go ahead and go down. If the tape isn't there for you to be able to kind of hold it a little bit for you, then you would just have to kind of put a dot and then hold it, and then put a dot and then hold it. It's a little bit tedious, but I don't know of a better way to do it. Maybe somebody else out there might. Get it out to this point. Alright. Let that one dry just a little bit. And the next ones we're just gonna be doing the same thing. The next one I'll put about right here. I'll put one about right here and about right here. That way they're about evenly spaced throughout it. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut it off and do that off camera so you don't have to watch all that. Okay, as you can see, everything's attached and good to go. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start putting this in. Back in the actual case part, I mean. Or this part. Now what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and feed this as much of this wire through here as we can. Hopefully I allocated for enough, but if not, or if you didn't either, you can always just attach another little piece of wire to add a little bit of length to it, and it should be good. Now some of these, normally I don't do it this way. You're going to see there's some extra wire in there, so you just pull each one through individually so that each little thing is taken care of and it's kind of tightened up, I guess you can say. There we go, there's a better view. You can see there's some extra wire there, so we're going to feed that through individually to kind of take care of all that, just to get it out of the way. And make sure it doesn't accidentally get moved around later and then hit your disc or something and mess it all up. Alright, so all that is about fed through. Now, leave this loose for right now because we're going to have to start popping in there and getting it popped back in the mechanism. So we're going to flip it over and we're going to get that little, I put mine in a little tray earlier on in this little tutorial. I think it was part 1 maybe. And I had all my the mechanisms for the lid in a little tray. So we're going to be getting everything reattached this way. Now, one side has a pin, and that's the side that doesn't use the spring, and that side has to go in first because it won't be able to clear if you get the spring attached. So the thing about that is you have to not only get it fed through, but you also have to get it around the hump so that that little prong for the lid can fit in there. It's going to take some finagling. There we go. Alright. Now that the pin's through, we're going to have to also kind of attach it into this. If you look, that little pin goes into that hole. So you got to kind of wedge it in there, just like that. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and get this one attached. Don't tighten it all the way at first. This is just to kind of keep it together. I'd say tighten it down about halfway. That way it's got a little bit of play for this other side that's got the spring in it. Alright, sorry about this, I'm getting a little bit of... There we go. Alright, now we're going to get this other side attached. First thing though is got to get the spring in there first. You see one side's long, one is short. The long side, the part that goes down into it, and actually goes into the lid. So what we got to do is and then the center spring part attaches on here. So what we got to do here is first we're going to get it on here, and also the spring attaches here. Like, you can have it accidentally here, but as you see, it won't do anything. So it's got to go on that little latch right there. And that's going to make it hard to get it in there, but if it's got to be hard, basically. Now this is going to be tricky too, because you got to, as you're getting the spring in there, you're putting this prong inside of the little lid hole, which is right there. You can see it right there. So as you're putting the spring in, you're kind of pushing this a little bit until it lines up with that hole, and there it goes. Alright, now hurry up and screw it in before you accidentally let go of it. Okay. As you can see now. Now we're going to go back over here and kind of push some of these little extra wires that may have come out. We're going to kind of pull a little bit of that through again. We're going to close it up. Alright, so that's pretty much that part. I got some hot glue on that. Let me wipe this off. Okay. So now that's pretty much good on that part. Now, as I was worried about, that's probably not going to be long enough, because the power board is about right here. So you think about it, well, I'm just going to go ahead, since this ain't going to reach probably quite enough without having to fight this, I'm going to go ahead and add another little piece of wire. So I'm just going to get about another 3-inch piece of wire and attach it to the end of this and solder it, make sure that's lined up with the positives and everything. And I'm going to do that off camera, and I'll be back in just a second. Alright, now as you can see, I went ahead and soldered the extra little piece of wire on there to make sure I'd have enough. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually wire up the LEDs and solder them onto this. So let me unplug this first, though. Have that plugged in. Alright. Now, if you guys remember from the part that actually talks about getting the LEDs set up, we're going to attach it on this little series right here. There's 5 of them. The positive is going to go on the one that's closest to the front. The LED is on the front, and here's the LED, the power LED. So the one closest to the front is going to be our positive side, and the one second to last from the back is going to be the neutral or negative or ground, whatever you want to call it. So now what we're going to do is I've got this, and here's my 2 ends, and we're going to attach each one. Now remember, it's going to be sitting like this. It's going to sit like this in the PlayStation, and the wires will be attached right here. So you want the wire feeding out this way. Otherwise you have to like wrap it around, and it'll be a mess. So remember that you've got it flipped upside down. You're going to want to make sure the wires go this way, not this way. Just make it a little bit easier on you later. Go ahead and detach this. Okay. So, first things first. I've got my 2 pieces here, and I'm going to dip those in flux. Like that. I'm going to get plenty of solder, because this factory solder is going to be a lot to make sure it's a good joint, because it's going to be tough solder. So we're going to attach our positive first to this front solder joint on this group of 5. Now I'm going to flip it to make it easier, but remember, the positive, now the front is right here where my thumb is, so the positive is going to go right here on this side, not the opposite like it just was. Now all I'm going to do is get it lined up, get that solder in there and make sure it melts it good. Give it a second to set up. Alright, now I'm going to clean my solder tip and get some more solder. Now I'm going to attach this. Remember, it's the second to last one, not the back one, but the one next to the back one. And make sure you don't accidentally get that wire crossed with the other joints, otherwise it'll be screwed and you could mess up the whole console. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get this in here. Now this is where it's going to get finicky because you've got all three pieces now, and if it's a console you painted, then you're going to have to be super careful because obviously you don't want to scratch and scuff the paint up this whole time. That's also another reason why I didn't do that on this one. It's because it's going to be a lot easier for me to show you all this. Alright, so we're just getting it back in here and getting the power board about where it's supposed to go. And as you can see, the wire just fed up right next to it. Now, before you start putting it together, remember there's a cable right here. So we're going to go ahead and attach that cable now. Make sure got it in there right. Okay. Now, you just got to make sure to feed this wire around the laser to the back, because if it goes over the top, then obviously you're going to have some issues. So you're just going to kind of hold your hand in there while you get it kind of set up. And you're going to kind of look back here and make sure no wires are poking out the back or anything and could get smushed and shorted. And there we go. Alright, now, of course, you're going to want to put the screws in the bottom and all that, and so I'm going to do that off camera. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I have not tried this out yet. I just double-checked to make sure all my wires weren't poking out of the back, that they weren't pinched anywhere by any of the little compartments of the case, and everything looked good. So, for all I know, this could fail. It shouldn't, but who knows. Could be something else wrong with it, but I've done it exactly like I've showed you guys, so it should work. So let's try this thing out. And it works. See if we can turn this. Well, I ain't going to worry about turning the light off, but see if I can just show you. See, the lights are on and everything in there. And then, of course, the power light's working fine. Let's put a disc in it. Make sure it loads all that up. But to knock my camera down in the process, right at the end of the tutorial, of course. Yeah, and it's loading up and everything. It's got it spun up to full speed. So anyways, guys, I hope this tutorial helped you out. I hope it's not going to be too confusing the way I did it with the 5 parts. I'm going to try to make sure, I link everything together, and I'm pretty sure I did a good job of every video of saying this is part whatever. And also use the titles to kind of make sure everybody knows exactly which one they're watching. So anyways, guys, now you should be able to completely mod your own PS1 console and have a cool little case mod. And yeah, so appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to let me know what you think. And if it does well enough, maybe, who knows, I'll do it for PS2 or who knows, whatever else you guys feel like would be cool. So until next time.